kiss you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah! You want to run or you want to duck down? You want to duck, just go over and get onto the bench and stay there.
You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets.
Well, hello, everybody. This is GreenBean. Welcome to the Thursday thick of it. Sorry for a couple minutes delay. It's just to increase anticipation. We're pros over here. We know what we're doing. We're working it all out. Guys, I could not be more excited to be here with you tonight. I want to say hello real quick to Wild Billy Boy. New York Sports Wicker Media is with us tonight as well. Mark Riz, Lawrence Wapples is here. We got so many of you guys, and I'm really just grateful that you guys are going to be able to spend this next hour or so with us. We have one of our legendary coaches, one of our faves. You know it's one of our faves, and he's here with us tonight. Before we bring him on, I want to bring on our team. Let's say hello to the one and only Frankie from Flatbush. What's up, Frankie? How you doing, buddy?
It's that time again. It's that time where we get to gripe intelligently, but this time it's a little different. And so I think we should bring our most intelligent gripes to the table for this evening.
There you go. Tonight we're going to have to be really strict on the level of intelligence that we allow through tonight. It's not going to be we're not going to be just letting anything fly by tonight. It's going to be a good one. Let's bring on the coach with the absolute most. Let's say hello to our legendary special teams coach, Mr. Mike Westhoff. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
We are so happy to have you here, man. Thank you for coming on.
No, I'm happy to do it. No, it's fun to talk to you guys. My years at the Jets were some of my most favorite in my life, so I'm happy to come with you.
All right. So look, we want to get into a little bit of your book. I want to remind everybody what you're doing. I mean, Coach Westhoff just released a book. It's called Figure It Out. Now, I want to just make sure everybody knows I have this book. I have an advanced copy, thanks to your assistant, Denise. And I'm loving this book. I really am. I'm enjoying it. A lot of the things that are in here I remember being a fan, watching these moments that you're talking about, some of the players that you're talking about. But I wanted to dig back a little bit and ask you a question. You said that you started, one of your earlier counterparts with coaching was one Bud Carson. Now, Bud Carson was the architect of the vaunted New York Sack Exchange later on. And we love Bud Carson around here. A lot of the younger fans don't really know him yet, but a lot of fans of my generation, we love Bud Carson. Now, you credited him with some of your really advanced techniques with special teams. You said, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of came from some of his style. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what it was like to work with Bud Carson and kind of what happened there?
Well, Bud Carson is one of the great defensive minds in NFL history. And one of the great coaches of all times, with maybe the Buddy Ryans and the Dick LeBeaus with the Steelers, but Bud Carson also, aside from the great sack exchange he had with you guys, remember he was the Pittsburgh Killer steel curtain defense, and that was Bud. This guy was exceptionally bright. And when all of a sudden I started coaching special teams, it happened by accident. I was with the Colts, and I was, believe it or not, I was the strength coach, which I was trying to get out of and hire somebody else. I was a tight ends coach. I was assistant offensive line. I was assistant head coach. Well, all of a sudden, the first year I was there, 1982, we had a strike. I remember they had a strike after 2 games. And so I'm out jogging, and I came with Frank. Cush comes along, starts talking to me. He said, Mike, I'm going to fire our special teams coach. And I talked him out of it. I said, all right, I'll tell you what, let me take it. So now here I am. I didn't have a notebook. I had his notebook. It should have come with crayons. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so here I've got this job. So I wanted to say, okay, I was going to try to pattern everything I did with a philosophy. Offense, I wanted to turn an offensive return into a power-up tackle running play. I wanted to take coverage, kickoff coverage. Remember, now back then, every kick was covered, not the game you see today. and I wanted to be a defensive coach. I wanted to blitz. So I went into Bud and I said, Bud, take me through the perimeters of your blitzing. And he did. Told me how to establish an edge, how to use the sideline as an extra player, how to get people moving that were looking like they're running behind each other, and then move off of that. And so, he gave me a real basis of that he taught me based on his philosophy. And what I learned very early when I started coaching special teams is that there was very little innovation,
Right.
but also very little regulation. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted. So I tried it all. So here, all of a sudden, I patterned my kickoff coverage with guys moving all around and overloading and doing all those things off of a Bud Carson blitz. That's what I did. And I think if you'd ask anybody back in those days, that coverage scheme that we had was by far the toughest that anybody ever had to face. And I got it from him. I got the philosophy, not the exactness, not the implementation, but the philosophy from Bud Carson.
Yeah, well, and that was so cool because I didn't know that. I mean, I'm routinely talking about how much I loved Bud Carson as a young fan, and to hear him mentioned as many times as you did in your book, I thought it was fascinating. Now, there was another guy that you mentioned that I don't like as much, being a Jets fan, and this was Zach Thomas. You talked about a really funny story where you saw him in practice, and he said that he had a little tweak. You said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "I just got a little tweak." And you said, "Well, good. If I see the plane flying overhead and it tweaks, I'll know you're on it, flying back to fucking Texas," which basically told him we're not gonna play games with these little tiddlywink injuries here. Do you think that players nowadays are a little bit softer than maybe they used to be? We seem to have a lot more injuries since the new collective bargaining agreement. How do you see it these days? There used to be tough guys, and now it just seems, maybe I'm off, but it seems like guys get hurt a little bit more and they're a little bit softer. Would you agree?
I don't want to agree on soft. I don't think that's necessarily true. It's a different game. It's just a little bit different. It's not quite as physical as it was, but yet it's still very physical. So I'm not going to underplay that at all. It's a very physical game. I don't believe they're really soft. I do know this. They don't have quite the time that we put in really getting everybody ready to play. Everything is cut back. Training camp today is pretty much like it's going to some kind of grade school camp. It's going to give me a break. I mean, training camp used to really be something. Now, you hardly have any contact. And a lot of times, guys really are behind. If a real good football coach today should really get that team prepared, because if you're really prepared, you can start off very, very hot in the National Football League. But some teams are really not ready to play. They're just not. They don't have the preseason reps. They're just not prepared. And it takes them a little while. Look at the early games. Tackling is terrible. It's terrible. Nobody can tackle. Watch the game. So that's where you've got to get a little bit of a head start. As a coach, you have to work a little harder. It's not easy because with the new rules, with the way they've collected bargained it, it very much favors the player. I'm not trying to beat them up and get people hurt. That's not what I believe in. Although I felt that I was as physical as a coach that ever did that. What I did, I firmly believe that. And we got after people pretty good. I love that part of it. But you have to fight through that. So yeah, that was the thing with Zach. And I was the only coach that went to Texas Tech. Now we had some scouts, but I was the only coach. The day I was there, he was 5'10" and a half. He weighed 223 pounds. But as Woody Hayes told me, I wrote about in the book, I wasn't going to let a number keep me from deciding who a football player was. So I fought to get Zach Thomas drafted, and he ended up being a great player. But I came on the field, and he wasn't dressed. And I asked him what was wrong, and he said he had a little bit of a hamstring, and he kind of shook his hand, and he went, I got a little bit of a tweak. And the Miami Dolphin practice field is just north of the flight pattern in and out of the Fort Lauderdale airport. I said, I'm glad you told me about that little tweak. And then I won't use the same thing you did, but that's what I said. And I said, when I look up there tomorrow and I see that plane tweak, I'll leave out some expletives. I'm going to know your butt's on that going back to Texas. Then I just, when he said, because he told you he was interviewed. See, that's what I love about what we did with the book. I wrote every word, but I did not conduct the interviews. I didn't want to interview the players. So Barry Wilner did that for me, and then he would record it and then insert it. So you're hearing Zach tell the story, not just me. And that's what I think I like, the way we did it. And Zach's telling, I said, Mike just walked away, and then as he got to know me, he knew I was a little bit different person than that. But that's the type of thing that I'm very proud of in this book. That was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I bet. And guys, before Frankie asks the next question, I want to remind everybody the book is Figure It Out. The link to purchase the book is in the description of this very video. I'm loving the book. I can't wait to I'm hoping for a happy ending over here. I hope there's some, at the end of the story, I hope there's some secret to how the Jets are going to win it all or something. I don't know. We'll see.
I was a lot more, it's about a lot more than just the Jets. The Jets were, a big part of my life, but the Jets didn't end up on a real positive note for me. That was a little bit rough because I came from those, that 2009 and 10 football teams where we go to back-to-back championship games. We had a particular blueprint. Now all of a sudden we were going to change the blueprint. Excuse me, that's not who we are. Now I know Mark Sanchez was not Tom Brady, but Mark did a solid job managing the type of football team we had. That's who we were. And all of a sudden we're going to become, New England Patriots, Southampton. I think that was ridiculous. And that's what was very discouraging for me.
Right. So Frankie, again, Coach, this is our buddy Frankie from Flatbush, and he's got some questions for you as well.
Well, Coach, you were just touching on something about the amount of time that coaches have with the players, and it's limited now. And it reminded me of something that I heard Coach John Gruden talking about in a coaching clinic recently, that the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator would come up to him and say, I need more time. I don't have enough time. And it made me think about special teams coordinators and how is the special teams coordinator supposed to get enough time considering he has to pull people from the offense and the defense. So I was wondering how you were able to manage your time so that you could coach up all the people you needed to coach up, considering that even the OC and the DC sometimes need more time with their players.
It's a good point. It's a good question. I developed a very learnable and workable system. Everything I called was very simple. I didn't have a whole big sentence going out there. We just had one or two words, and you knew exactly what it was. So it was very learnable. Also, I realized very early in my career that I pretty much had timeout before every play. Think about it. I pretty much have a timeout because the clock stopped with kickoff. Now back then, remember, every return was being covered and kicked. It kicked and covered, and also you had to return. So those were all live plays. Well, I had a timeout. So I had a lot of timeouts before punts or punt returns. So I would get everybody together. I just bring them together, and I had it all drawn. So rather than have 2 or 3 kickoff returns, I'd have 13. All I had to do was just hold it up, hold it up and say, okay, you go here, you go there, and we didn't make mistakes. And it really worked. And it was learnable and likable. And then I practiced things in a very disciplined manner. But if you get out there and you hustle, I used to call my practices the fastest. I did the same thing at the New Orleans Saints with Sean Payton. I came in, he said, Mike, you got 8 minutes. I said, okay, it's the fastest 8. I said, trust me, I'm telling you this. After my 8 minutes, you better take a water break.
Right.
Because you're going to need it.
Squeezed everything out.
For those 8 minutes, you better believe it was going like you never saw it. Same way with 12, fastest 12. When they were done, they were dead. But that's the only thing I accepted. I didn't accept anything else. I wasn't always the easiest guy to play for. I could be pretty tough. But I'm not, I'm reactionary. I want to react to what I see. If I see a great job, I'll be the happiest guy in the world to tell you. If it looks like hell, I'm going to be the first one to tell you. And so that's all. Somebody's told me, well, that's old school. I don't know if it's old school. It's reactionary. I'm just being realistic. And so I never really had issues with time. I never did. I had plenty of time. And a lot of time it's my responsibility to get them to learn. I got to make sure in a meeting that they're paying attention. Everybody had a game plan. Their name was on it. I collected them. I used to show them on an overhead sometimes. I never showed the name, but I'd show it. And then when someone had a terrible one, I might throw it out the door and tell them I don't want to look at this shit again. I'd be swearing. So, I learned a really good lesson. It's in the book. I'm sure you read it from Bear Bryant, the part with Bear Bryant. And as an unbelievable experience for me. I'm sitting on a curb. I went to Tuscaloosa just to visit. I wanted to see him. I thought of transferring there when I was in school. But anyway, here I am walking around the Alabama campus with Bear Bryant. Now, he's getting older now. And he told me, he said, can we sit down here for a minute? And he and I sat down under a tree. He took off his hat, his houndstooth hat. He wiped his head and he said, I'm getting old. I get tired. And we started talking. He said, I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. He said, one, I'm not going to give my whole book away, but I'll tell you this one. He said, one, don't be afraid to change. He said, I held off on a change I should have made. He said, I held off a little bit. I made it, but I held off. He said, the other one, the real good players want to be coached. They want to be pushed. He said, you may not be the most popular guy, but at the end of it, they'll love you for the way you did it. He said, so don't be afraid to push them. So I pushed them. I was tough. I raised the bar as high as you can. You'll read about it. You'll read what some of the guys said. And look at Thomas Horsted. I think the best punter that there is. I love the kid. But anyway, about how you have to push guys. So I wasn't afraid to try. I didn't care. I didn't want them to take me home for dinner. That's not, maybe when I'm older, you come down or I'll take you fishing. But right back then, you're going to do it a certain way. And that's the only thing. So the time never bothered me. Never.
Nice. Yeah, because you would think, right? Like special teams coaches are, you have to have a really special way about you, because offensive guys, they have all their offensive players. The defensive coordinator, they have all their defensive players. You have to kind of meld a little bit of everybody and make them into their own unit. That's got to have a certain level of difficulty that's not really present on the other sides of the ball.
It does, but it's the great challenge. You get an offensive kid, you get an offensive guy, and all of a sudden he's got to run down and tackle. Or you get a defensive guy that's never blocked in his life. You have to teach them. You've got to teach these fundamentals. And so you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. You don't give up. You find a way. You just keep trying to be creative. And then when they see it and it clicks, there's nothing like it. I know some of the years when I was with the Jets, we had a group of guys that believed they could make the difference in the game. We didn't always, of course not. I remember going and playing New England. We said, look, New England's going to score. But then they got to kick off. They got to kick off to Leon Washington. Okay, go ahead. Let's see what happens. And we knew we could make a play. If we went over to 35, we were sick. We were sick to our stomach. But we knew that we could make that difference. And when we did, then it helped us win the game. That was my goal. I used to use metaphorical examples like that of how, if this group didn't show up and this group didn't show up, we'd still win the game. We'd figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and special teams, it happens so fast. Like you can flip the game in one moment. Special teams has that ability to take a game going one way and completely flip the momentum. It's really an amazing, I think, underappreciated aspect of the game of football by many people.
It's vastly underappreciated today.
Yeah.
Vastly, because they've taken it away. I'll give you the numbers. I'll give you the exact number. Okay. My first 30 years in the National Football League, my first 30, all right, not counting PATs or field goals, not counting those plays, whether you kick them or defending them. I averaged 22 plays a game, 22. Kickoffs, punts, punt returns. My last 2 years with the New Orleans Saints, 7.
7?
Really? 7. I went from 22 to 7. I went up to the combine this year and talked to the special teams coaches. And I let them know that if they didn't get on top of this job that I believe, that I helped create, you can take help out if you want, because I think I created it. Being a special teams coordinator, it's not going to be there. I said, there's an owner going to walk in. He's going to look at the head coach. He's going to say, why am I going to pay this guy $1 million a year when he's got 8 plays a game?
Yeah.
I think I bring up a good point.
You do. Well, let me ask you, how is that received by the special teams coaches? Are they aware? And is the NFL doing that specifically for injuries? Is that what's going on?
That's how it got started. The smart ones are aware, and they want to get it done. The ones that aren't so smart, they think I'm arrogant. So, I could care less. Look at however you want. And I'm out of it. I don't need it. I get asked to go back every year. I tell the guys, they've called me. I said, what do you think? What am I going to coach? Everything that I did is illegal. You can't do it anymore. All the stuff that I did. I mean, Roger Goodell, he's put that nice quote on my book. But when I talked to him this fall, I was at a celebration of life for Don Shula. And Roger Goodell was teasing me. And he said, Mike, you're the last one that can complain about the rule changes. He said, we changed most of them because of you. He said,
right.
You're the reason. He said, so don't complain.
Well, that's
you
great.
want to keep the game safe. You want to keep it safe, but you want to keep the play alive. So to me, figure a way to do it. Just don't have, where you have the big collisions. You can eliminate some things, and do it right, but still keep the play alive. Okay, we're playing the Colts. You guys can remember Peyton Manning's last game. We beat them there, and then we go to the next round of playoffs, right?
That's right.
They kick off at that game. They pull ahead, and they kick off, and Brad Smith had gotten hurt. We put Antonio Cardi back. He runs the kickoff to the 50-yard line. We get one first down. We kick the ball. We win the game. If that ball had not been returned, did we win that game?
Yeah.
We couldn't have won the game. We didn't have the time. But we had a chance with the play. I still remember Miami right. We doubled their right 5. We dropped out. I said, we just blocked right there. If it hadn't been for a great play by the kicker, he would run for a touchdown. So, but anyway, it gave us a chance. And that's all that I ever wanted as a coach. Give me a chance to help us win. And it's my responsibility now to find a way.
Right. Well, and look, you're bringing up a touchy time here, right? For us, this is, and you labeled the chapter perfectly. You called it the beginning of the end.
Thank you.
Right. I mean, I thought it was so perfect. And I already know the story, but I mean, at least the overall story, but still, again, I saw it and I'm like, shit, here it comes. I was just having some good times. But like during that offseason, and you talked about it a moment ago when you said that they changed what we did. During that offseason, the 2011 offseason, they let guys like Sean Ellis, Braylon Edwards, Jericho Cotry, but then Brad Smith as well. They just there was like a vacuum. All these great, reliable, team-focused players seemed to be allowed to go. Do you think that had something to do with going from those championship teams to that following year? We were 8-8, and that was just the beginning of the downslide. Did you see it? Like, how did that go from your standpoint?
Obviously, there were salary cap issues that you have to deal. There were money issues. I understand that. That's a part of it. But we lost 14 of those guys. We lost 14 players. 14. So I don't want to hear it. You just can't do it. We were losing some really good guys, and we're bringing in my opinion, some marginal type people. And, we had good people. These were good guys.
Right.
We had an offensive line. DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Alan Faneca, he's in the Hall of Fame, by the way. Nick Mangold, Damian Woody. You want to get a first down? Run the ball over by Damian Woody. Are you kidding me? Who's going to stop you? This is who we were. And running backs, with the Thomas Jones and the Damian Tomlinson. I mean, last I heard, they were pretty good football players. So, and Darrell Rivas, Rex would put him on one side and the whole rest of the team on the other. And so, and I had kind of an all-star team. I mean, we guys that were so tough and good people. Eric Smith, James Ahitabo, and those guys they were special people. And so, it was a type of team. And to me, this is who you are. And it fit our personality. It really fit us because we were a very physical team. We were very physical as a football team. Now, sometimes we were 3 yards in a cloud of dust, maybe. It might not be the sexiest, but it's where we could control the clock. We knew as soon as we crossed the 50-yard line that we were going to go into 4-down territory. We would tell our coordinator, you've got 4 downs. Now, if on 4th down, it becomes unadvantageous, then it would become my call. But he would, not knowing we're going to go for it on 4th down, but knowing he had 4 shots. You can do a lot of difference when you're calling plays if you know that. So totally. The whole philosophy fit what we were. It just fit us. And that's the key. If you're going to be a good football team, figure out what you have. And then build everything around that. Build around it. And if you do that on both sides of the ball, well, now you can get a team that's got a chance, and that's what we were. And then we drifted away from it.
Yeah. And it was sad to see on our end, Coach, because we were here. I mean, that was about as close as we got. You said it before. We almost got there. We were just need to go a little bit more and we could have did it. But it was really sad on our end to see us finally reach those heights. We loved Rex. We loved, Shoddy. We loved Tanny. We loved you. We loved the collection that we had then. And to see it just kind of erode before our eyes was very difficult. And the truth is, for us Jets fans, we've never come back from that. We're still now trying to kind of climb out of this, and it's been a tough decade, Coach. I have to admit, it has been.
It's just been, when I went after I retired, I went to work for the media and I covered the Jets, SNY and on the ESPN radio. I was still a big Jets fan, but I saw how the material just dissipated. It wasn't the same. Actually, a couple years ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, maybe 3, I was watching the Jets on television. And I thought to myself, I'm not sure I see 5 guys that could have played on our real good teams.
Wow.
Now, that's a harsh statement. And that's probably not fair because I'm not looking at it on film. I'm not studying it the right way. But it's not like I haven't ever seen a football game before. So I've seen a few. And that's just how I felt. We had some personnel on that team. And John Gruden, who I became pretty good friends with, he told me he came to visit us during that year when there was a lockdown. And he told me years later that he thought that was the best NFL coaching staff he had ever seen.
Really?
That's what he told me. Don't forget, Bill Callahan was our offensive line coach.
That's right. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good group of people now. Ben Weekham, my assistant, he's been a coordinator. He went
we
on.
had Dennis Thurman. I mean, there was a lot of you guys. I mean, it
was a good group of coaches. It was just a good group and a good group of players. And to me, find a way to keep it moving like that. Because all of a sudden, all of a sudden you're losing Alan Faneca and you're replacing him with a Mexico Burris. And no disrespect to him, because he did. But does he fit with this group? I don't see it, guys. I just didn't see it. So that's kind of how we ended up where we were.
Yeah. Oh, it was so tough. I wish I could have been in the room with you. We would have I would at least supported what you were saying. I could
have used some support.
Yeah.
I could have used you.
Right.
I would have been happy to have you with me.
What do you got, Frankie?
Well, Coach mentioned Brad Smith and brought up something in my mind about Brad Smith. One of the most underrated Jets of all time, Brad Smith. He was so good. And he never looked like he was, really trying. He was one of these long striders, I think. And it didn't look like he was trying, but then he was just zooming past everybody. And you looked around and he's in the end zone for a touchdown. And one of the controversial players on this team for a lot of Jet fans is Denzel Mims. I wonder, Coach, if you think Denzel kind of has something of Brad Smith in him, that he could maybe be a guy who could play special teams, maybe on kickoffs, because he kind of the way he runs reminds me of Brad Smith a little bit.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know him well enough to really give an honest evaluation. I haven't studied him like I do. From what I've seen, though, just a little bit that I've seen, this is a pretty talented guy that you're talking about. This kid's got some talent, and I think it's worth looking at. Here's the thing, though. In this day and age, the returner that you have to have is your punt returner. Mm-hmm. The kickoff returner, you just got to get a guy, because you're not going to get that number of plays anyway. That's something that's really changed, which I'm very sad that happened, but that's the case. But the other one, you better find a punt returner. But an interesting, as talented as this guy is he Brad Smith? I wish I knew. I could give you a better answer. I don't know him enough to intelligently give you a good answer on that. But Brad did so much for us. And he played. When I went out to Missouri to scout him, I went to the university. Everybody in the place was crying. They were all the secretaries were crying. They were all so sad. Brad Smith leaving. They loved him.
Wow.
And then he comes with us. We make him a wide receiver. Then he's an H-back. He can be a halfback. He can cover kicks for me. I can run him down as what I call a ball guy, and then I can run him down as a safety. When I had when Leon Washington, was the return guy. Before him, I had Dustin Miller. So Dustin Miller leads the league, and Brad Smith and Leon Washington are blocking for him. Okay, then Leon Washington's the guy, and Brad Smith's blocking for him. He leads the league. Then when
Right.
he's gone, Brad Smith leads the league. So it was such a good group, and they were all smart and they worked together. But you're right. After a game one time, Marvin Lewis, the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, told me, this is what he just told me. He said, Mike, I'm just going to tell you something. He said, if you guys don't have Brad Smith, you don't beat us.
Really?
He said, I'm just telling you. That's what he said. I don't know. I didn't say it.
Yeah.
He said, you wouldn't have beat us. He said, that kid made plays that just killed us. He said, he killed us. He said, you put him in as a wildcat, he scores. We kick off to you, he scores. He said, he killed us. So, he's such a great guy. And all of a sudden, you can't find a way to keep him on your football team. I don't know, guys. I just don't know. It's very disheartening.
Yeah, well, that's a good word to use, and trust me when I tell you, us out here, we felt it. We felt it. Those are the kind of the unsung guys. They're not necessarily on national sports pages or anything, but we know how important they really are. And there was another guy that you mentioned in the book, and I was fascinated with this. And this was, look, lately we've been talking a lot about Jets greats, for lack of a better word, Jets greats that kind of went ignored. And one of those guys that you mentioned was Chad Morton, and he was an electric player that we loved for a short period of time. And you talked about him missing out on a Pro Bowl because of a rule change. You mind sharing a little bit about that and how that went?
Sure.
With Chad?
But Chad Morton's the running back coach of Seattle Seahawks now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chad's the running back coach, and he was great for me. I loved him. Did a great job. But there was the 1 year I thought he absolutely. Well, I had a good statistic the 1 year. We were going out to play the Raiders in around the 10th, 11th game of the year, and I was doing my game plan, and I'm breaking down statistics. And at the time, Santana Moss was leading the league in punt returns. Chad Morton was leading the league in kickoff returns. Chad Morton was second in the NFL in punt returns. Try to beat that. There's nobody beating that record. I don't care. So those guys who think I talk too much have the record before they say anything. But I just love it. Anyway, Chad Morton, I was just devastated when we lost him to Washington. That just broke my heart because I love the kid. And, we made a mistake. We didn't have the contract the way it should have been. And we thought we had right of first refusal. But not necessarily. That's not the way it worked. We ended up losing him. Anyway, he should have gone to the Pro Bowl. Dante Hall went, who was a great return guy. And I tremendously admire him. But there was a rule back then that as a punt return, if you signaled for fair catch and then the ball hit the ground, that fair catch was off. All bets were off. And then you could now pick the ball up and return it. Well, twice during the year, we did more than twice, but twice he signaled for fair catch. This was Dante. When the ball hit the ground, coverage team eased up. He ran up, fielded it, and ran for 2 touchdowns.
Right.
He went to the Pro Bowl. I was sick. We changed the rule. Myself and Mike Pereira wrote that rule change that if you signal for fair catch, that there can't be no possibility of a return, whether the ball hits the ground or not. So that was a good rule change. And Chad actually took a little bit of the brunt of that because he didn't get to go to a Pro Bowl, and he's surely deserved to go.
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting for me to hear the wording that you chose. You said you were furious when he didn't make the Pro Bowl. And it's like, and I got the feeling of the connection that you really have with the players. They're working their asses off all year. They actually make good. They acquire the stats and make all the success, and then they get overlooked because of a rule or something like that. And reading that chapter really hit me, Coach. It really did, because I remember being upset that he didn't make the Pro Bowl. I remember when he left to the Redskins with another one of your guys, John Hall and Lavernius Coles and Randy Thomas. They all left to the Redskins together. They called them the Jetskins at the time. But I remember Chad Morton was one of the guys I was most upset to lose. And it's fascinating reading it in your book. And just to remind everybody, the book is called Figure It Out by Coach Westhoff. It's fantastic. It's got some meat on the bone. You see this? It's not just
it took me almost 3 years to write it.
Well, you can tell.
And it took me a little while to do it. Now, sometimes being a coach is a little bit like being a parent in some ways. When someone does something well, there's no one that loves it anymore. And when things go bad and go against them, there's no one that you don't get so angry. You don't take it out, obviously, but you have those type of level of feelings. That's how I felt with players. I just felt that way. And I could be very, very tough, but at the same time, no one cared more about them than I did. I very much appreciated what I saw. I don't acquiesce. I wasn't the nicest guy. Oh yeah, that's real good. No, actually, it's not very good. It looks like hell. We're going to talk about that. But that's how I just believed of being a coach was. And so, when things went bad for them, and it was something that it really was not their fault, and they had done, then I was so much on their side. Very, very much so. Always.
Yeah, well, it was good to read, because a lot of the time, especially in today's NFL, coach, it looks more like a business than ever before. And for I'm an old head. I come from a different era. Guys were on the team for 10, 15 years. I bought a jersey.
I still like that.
Right? So it's different now. And to hear you say that, I really, it hit me. And I think a lot of the times, now I forget that coaches do have intense feelings for players, because we rotate through them so much, 2 years here, 3 years there. And it just doesn't seem like it's that way anymore. So reading that chapter was really fascinating. Now I see there's a good question in the chat, and I want you to know, guys, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask questions to Coach in just a minute. But I want to get 1189 Paris. I think this is a really good question. He said, do you have a favorite kicker during your Jets tenure? So who was your favorite Jets kicker that you got to coach? Was there anyone?
Well, during the Jets, I had a couple of guys but one that I have to mention, of course, was we drafted, Mike Nugent with Mike, and I had very high expectations for him. I really believed in him. I went to Ohio State and worked out. And then Mike, after his first year, got sick. He had a mono or something, and he just kept losing weight. And so Mike got behind. And there was a point in time where it was a little disappointing. He didn't quite as well as I had hoped. But then eventually he kept fighting through it, and he went on to have a very good and a very long career. He did a heck of a job. The guy that stepped in and did a heck of a job for us, and he's still kicking, was Nick Folk. Nick did a very good job with the New York Jets. I mean, he made a lot of kicks. He's still making. He's making for England. He's gonna play the game longer than Brady. I mean, Nick's done a nice job. And but then a guy early when I first got there was John Hall, and we lost John Hall. We lost him too. I knew in one of my favorite games ever as a coach was the postponed 9/11 game when we went out to Oakland and had to play out there. The game that remember when they postponed because of the tragedy of 9/11. And when we went out there, that was a great football game. We had to win to be in the playoffs. We blocked their punt. We blocked the punt. Chris Hayes blocked it. That was a tremendous game for me. I loved it. It was one of my best games ever. And then we're driving down the field. I can still remember Herman was yelling at Paul Hackett to throw a Hail Mary. And I didn't even hesitate. I just did it. I sent the field goal team on the field. He's looking at me like, I said, just leave me alone because we're kicking a field goal. And he kicked, I believe at the time, it was the longest field goal that ever been kicked in that stadium. Pretty close to that. And made it for a great Jet win. And so John Hall was good. He was a great kickoff guy. He had guts. He was a tough kid. And I'm just disappointed all of a sudden. Here I'm excited about him, and then we lose him. I'm like, holy mackerel! I just got here, guys. Quit giving me a headache.
Right.
So that was tough. But so those are some guys. Each one's a little different. I probably had invested as much in Mike Nugent as we drafted him. After Doug Bryan missed the kick in Pittsburgh, we were going to get somebody. Really, we blew that whole opportunity. Though I went to Herman. I said, "You've got to get the ball inside the 20-yard line. We cannot make the kick." And we screwed the whole thing up. Tried it from the 26, and we didn't make it. So it's just that was a mess. But you bring up that's a good question. It's hard to answer with just one person because of those three guys.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. And that game, Frankie, I know you remember the game. That was a tough game. It was stressful, and to come out on top and get into the playoffs was magical. I mean, I remember that game like it was yesterday. I know exactly where I was, the whole thing. But I'm a little deranged with it. But at the same time, it was a good fun. It was a good read in the book. And not that we'll get too into this part, but something that you mentioned in the book, like you just said, that Raiders game ended up being the makeup game because we delayed the season because of the 9/11 tragedy. And you have a really good story in the book about, you credit the New York Jets, Herm Edwards, Terry Bradway, with really kind of putting the ball in motion to kind of delay sports and put everything down for a minute so the country can take a moment and take a breath. And you said that it really started with the New York Jets, didn't it?
It absolutely was the New York Jets. No question in my mind. No question in my mind at all. The night before that happened, that Thursday or Wednesday night, I was in my office and I got a call from personnel director of the Green Bay Packers, a guy named Mark Hatley, who I used to work with. And we had got talking about a personnel move. And then he asked me what I thought about the game going to be being played that week. And I said, well, our guys are having a tough time because, we walk in our backyard, we can still see the smoke. So this is in our neighborhood. This is tough. And he said, well, he said, I think you better get ready, Mike. He said, because they're going to play the game. The commissioner and the president want to play the game. And he said, our general manager, I can't think of his name right now. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Sorry, Brett.
No, for the Green Bay Packers.
Right, Ron Wolf.
Yeah, Ron Wolf had told him that football's going to be played that week. It's going to be played. And so the next day at the meeting, our guys they just weren't there. They just couldn't do it. And we had some strong leaders. And the leaders that took over the meeting were, Vinny Testaverde, who was very much so, and Curtis Morton, and of course Kevin Mawai. Well, yeah, two of those guys were wearing gold jackets. So right. I remember them talking to the team, and Herman did a nice job. Herman told me, he said, look, guys, this is your decision. You've got to make it. He said, we're going to step out. You've got an hour. Sit here, cover everything. He said, it looks as though the league wants to play. But if you can't do it, then we're going to talk about it. And he came in my office. And I remember talking to him. I said, you're doing a perfect thing. You've got to support them. Whatever they decide, you have to support them. And I even went a step further. I said, Herm, if they talked about they would take a game check, I said, I'll give one of mine and we'll donate it. He agreed. He and I said that we would do that. We brought the coaches together. But our whole thing was, let's back the players. Right. Back it. Bradway and Herm did that. And then they were on a conference call. And Terry Bradway was talking to Woody Johnson, and they just said, look, guys, the New York Jets aren't going. We're not getting on a plane. We cannot do it. We're not going to fly to Oakland. We just need a timeout. We need a timeout, and we're not going to go. And next thing you know, this is what I believe. I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't tell you how it exactly took place. But then the Giants were involved, and that snowballed, and they did the exact right thing in America. America needed a timeout from sport to get itself back together. And that's what we did. And it worked out great. It was a great move. And in my opinion, the New York Jets were solely responsible. I'll always believe that.
Amazing. Yeah, that was a good read. And I appreciated you putting that in the book, Coach. So Frankie, what do you got for Coach?
Well, that was a very heavy topic, Coach. But now let's talk about something even heavier, kickers. We were just talking about kickers a little bit. And I wonder from a coaching perspective, last year the Jets went through a period where we had to try out some kickers because we weren't satisfied with the guy we started out with. And when that happens and they come in, and you're trying them out, is there anything? How does the special teams coach evaluate the kickers other than just seeing who kicks the highest percentage of field goals? Are there other ways that you evaluate these kickers who come in, say mid-season, and they're trying out for you? What are the?
I'm going to take a good look at the guy's background, his history. I'll know what he's done in college or what he's done at other NFL teams. So I'm going to know that as a background. The thing that I'm going to look for, that I look for the most, is I want to see who has the fewest moving parts. I relate kicking to a golf swing. The golfer that's got the nice smooth swing, everything's in sync. I don't want the golfer that's all over the place. He's got 50,000 moving parts. And that's the way I judge kickers. And I used to really believe that I didn't want to teach someone how to kick, but I could teach them how to keep their technique the right way. I could help them with that. If they had a good, solid, fundamental, basic technique that had good lift, good timing, not a lot of moving parts, then I would make sure I would take care of the rest of it. I could take care of that guy mentally. I could get him tough enough. I could discipline him. I could practice him the right way, and that guy would work for me. So, and I had very good kickers in my career. I struggled a little bit with punters because at the New York Jets, I was like on another punting planet, to tell you the truth. But other than that, I've had good punters in my career, but I didn't have them at New York. Woo! I had trouble there. But kickers, that's what I looked for. I wanted to see that guy. And then you just knew. I used to look at this way. If a guy missed a kick, I used to want to be surprised. Oh, man, missed? How'd you miss? What happened?
Right.
I don't want to be able to say, oh, yeah, he missed. Oh, yeah. No. I don't want that guy. I want to be surprised. And the way the game is today, keep this in mind. The way the game is today, if you don't have a kicker that's in the 90 percentiles, you got to get another one because everything's perfect today. You see, I'll give you an example. Number one, the ball is a friendly ball. It's buffed up a little bit. It's legal, but it's friendly. They buff it up before the game. It's like they put a piece of astroturf and they buff it. So it's a friendly ball. It's legal, but it's friendly. That's the truth. A question for you. When's the last time you saw a bad snap?
What do you think, Frankie?
Pretty rare.
Tough to think, right, Frank?
Yeah.
Tough. Okay. I'll tell you why. Because of the fact you can't line anybody up on them anymore. You can't hit them. You can't hit the guys. So long snappers today like high school phys ed teachers. That's who they are. No disrespect. No disrespect. Back when I was there, you had to have James Durf, 285 pounds of muscle, because it was totally different. When's the last time you saw a terrible hold? Tony Romo dropped one. That's the last one anyone can remember. Yeah. Everybody knows how to hold. They take the ball, they put their back leg up, they bring that elbow right into the inside of the knee that guides the ball down perfectly. So you're going to have a perfect ball, a perfect snap, a perfect hold. You can't rush up the middle. You can't pressure. If you can't make the field goal, then I'm going to find another kicker. Because so everything has helped the kicker. I still got to have guts. I still got to be able to have the fight pressure. But come on, it's not even near as tough as it used to be. Not even near. It's not the same. So everything is there. So in this day and age, if you don't have a kicker that can make those kicks, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You've got to have that guy.
That's an interesting way, right? He's right, Frankie.
Yeah, I mean,
everything is so tailored, right?
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, we didn't know about the buffed up balls, Coach. I think that was new information for us.
The way they do it, it's the way they do it. Each team goes into the training room with the equipment guy, and they go in before the game. And the official takes, I want to say it's 4 or 6 balls, and they're right out of the box. He takes them out, and he checks the pounds per square inch. He actually initials it, and these are the K balls, the kicking ball. All right, then those guys get it. They overinflate it slightly, just a little bit. Then they put a piece of astroturf on a table, and they buff it like you'd shine your shoes. They're not. It's like baseball guys rub the ball down. They don't take it right out of the box. It's the same thing. Now, then the pounds per square inch is set exactly correctly, and then they use that ball. It's not illegal. It's just a little bit friendly. That's all I'm saying. It's not. It's not a big balloon. Back in the day, they messed around. That stuff does not exist today. It's very carefully scrutinized by the officials. So I'm just going to call it friendly. It's a good ball. Yeah. Now, the kickers have really made sure that they try to use the same 1 or 2 balls. They like that friendly ball. So, they've got their eye on that. What I would recommend, because I want to keep the kickoff is that they play with 3 balls. And they have the offensive ball, the kicking ball, and I would have a kickoff ball that's taken right out of the box. It's the only one you can use to kick off. It's going to be like a rock. So now they blast, instead of coming down -6, it'll come down on the 3-yard line, and I'm going to have a play.
I think we found a solution to the kickoff.
I wrote about it. That's a solution. They want it. There it is. Not that hard. And they've already taken away the collisions. You can't wedge, you can't double team, you can't trap. All the stuff that I love, it's all gone. So that's why I'm never coming back. I'm just going to watch the game like you guys.
Right. Well, I I do miss your wedge. I have to admit, I missed the wedge. Now, Coach, do we have you for a few more minutes? Is it okay?
Yeah,
if
sure.
I
As long as you want. I'm enjoying it. I'm happy to do it.
All right. Well, great. I'm happy to hear that. I want to bring on our other buddy, our other teammate, Watu-K. He's got an interesting question for you. And then we're going to turn it over to you guys in the chat. I see some really good questions. As per usual, super chats will jump the line, but we'll try to get as many as we can for Coach Westhoff. So Watu-K is back with us. Now, Watu-K, you had a good question for Coach. Why don't you take a shot?
I do, Coach. It's a pleasure to talk to you tonight, first and foremost. Thank you for all you've done before we go.
Thank you. It was great for me. I loved it.
Well, those are our glory days. And by the way, chat, later on, we will have some Mike Westhoff special teams related trivia questions. So you will want to stay tuned for that. All right. So one question I wanted to ask you was, do you have a player who maybe you weren't sold on at first, but over time he won you over?
That's really a good one. You should get a job in the media. That's a good question.
Right now, I just got GreenBean.
No, it's a good question. It's a really good question. I'll tell you one that jumps at me a little bit. Joe McKnight. Joe McKnight. When Joe McKnight first came to New York Jets, Joe McKnight looked like he couldn't play for the Mighty Mites. I mean, he got sick every day. Remember, he didn't pass his conditioning test for a month. It was like, we got a running back that can't pass the test. Poor guy. But then, little by little, I saw some things. And so, in fact, if you were here at my office, you could see I have a thing on my wall that I put up one time in a room. I had a player, one of our linebackers. I used to do a grade thing, special teams point grade. And he was always the leader. And there was a picture of him standing in the water. All right. And there's some, like blood on his hand around this, a little blood in the water. And there's all these shark fins around it. Okay. And around it, I had the other guys who were chasing them. Number 33, Eric Smith. Brad Smith. I had their numbers there. And way, way, way in the back, I had this little tiny fin. And I had number 25, Joe McKnight. You would have thought he just won the Super Bowl. But I had him on there. And I said, even Joe's catching you. So, and I saw him gradually develop, little by little. And then, of course, don't forget now, he led the NFL in kickoff returns. He did a great job for us and really became a good player. And, God rest his soul, he got, just killed in a terrible, tragic incident. But Joe came out of nowhere. That's a good question. And he's the guy that, if I had to pick one, I would think so. And he also is the guy that blocked that punt, in the opening game of the year when we beat Dallas on the anniversary of 9/11.
Oh, my goodness, that's right.
Which is one of the greatest New York Jets games of all time. Opening night, President Bush is at the game. They had all the first responders, every celebrity and athlete that could get there was at that game. Tremendous football game. It was Joe McKnight that blocked that punt that put us in the tie. And Nick Folk kicked the field goal to win. Great game.
So often we think about the Revis interception, but yes, that is a play that does get forgotten. That is true.
Yeah.
Joe blocked
and that's that game has become famous for the battle between Des Bryant and Revis, but that's good, right? Joe McKnight was a huge part of that game, and what an interesting player to bring back up, and thank you for that. It's I remember when Joe McKnight was vomiting in practice and all that sort of stuff, and we didn't know what we had. He was a third-round pick, and we said, oh no, and then slowly but surely, so that was good. Now, the first question from the gallery, Coach, is from a fan, Jets Mess, we call him. And he says, did you think that Brad Smith could have been a starter? He was awesome on special teams, but do you think he could have been a starter in an NFL offense?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. You just got to find the right spot. Now, maybe sometimes it's a little bit like when I was down to New Orleans Saints, people asked me the same question about Taysom Hill. Oh, he can play. Watch him play sometime. He can play. He started off. I found him. He was coming out of the shower, wrapped in a towel. I said, who's this guy? Looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who is this kid? And the next thing you know, I got him. He's a quarterback. Never dressed a game for the New Orleans Saints. First game we dressed, he gets the game ball. Ended up being maybe the best special teams player in the NFC. And now he's the best hybrid player in football. He's the best. So sometimes you got to look. Brad Smith could do that. You got to move him around different places. All of a sudden, you throw him in a quarterback. Next thing you put him out as a tight end, you bring him in motion. He's a halfback. This guy had those types of talents. He could do all that. So could he be a starter? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My opinion. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So thank you, Mess. Now, Marist Old Boys is checking in. He says, what did Westy think of Leon Washington in his prime?
He's the best.
The best.
I did a thing in my book, as you well know, you've read it, where I picked an all-star team. I believe that fortunately for me, I came along at the right time in the right place because there was very little innovation, no regulation, special teams. So I witnessed what I think the best special teams that were ever played and will be ever played because of the rule changes. That's the reality. It's just changed. It's not the same. Okay. Well, I picked an all-star team. Again, remember, I've got some great players, Deion Sanders, Devin Hester. Okay. But the all-star team that I picked all played for me. They all played for me. And I believe it's the best group that ever played in the National Football League. And I know there's coaches that are furious about that. I love aggravating them. So I'm happy to do it. So trust me, I don't care. So this was a group that played for me. My kickoff returner, Leon Washington. He was the best. He could do it all. And I know if you've read that part, maybe I haven't gotten there yet, how he talked about what we did and how he saw it. Read what he has to say, because it just gives you a different perspective. But Leon, please, best.
Yeah.
I would not take anybody over him.
Wow. Incredible.
What a statement. Wow.
Yeah.
That's me. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it.
Well, thank you, Coach. Chris Bradigan checking in says, Coach, what are your expectations for our beloved Jets this year?
That's a good one. And to tell you the truth, I'm not an expert on it. You guys know it better than I do. I don't. But here's what I have seen, in my opinion. This is, in my opinion, I think it's the best prepared I've seen the New York Jets ready to enter the year in the last 10 years. I think this year's the best prepared. If I were a New York Jet fan, I would have some expectations. I think this football team has got a chance. If they don't, now they got to fight through a very difficult first part of that schedule. That schedule's tough. And so you get through that first 6 or so games, and you got to hang in there. You're not going to win a ton. But I think if they can hang in there and win a couple games there, one or two, I believe they can have a winning season. I believe they can do that. Now, injuries, all that type of stuff. But I would expect this football team to take those steps forward and be in a position. Now, I was just at the Miami Dolphins. They're very fast and they've got some talent there, so they're a little bit better. Their quarterback, I'm not 100% sold on. Okay, the Patriots are always going to be the Patriots. They're good, and Buffalo's really good. Buffalo's the real deal. That football team's good. But the Jets, they're in a position where they can compete, I believe. I mean, if I were a Jets fan, I would go there with some expectations of seeing very good football, and I'd be very disappointed if I didn't see that.
Amazing. Well, and it's nice to hear you say that because, look, we can't predict, right? We can't predict.
No,
but
I don't know as much as you. I do not know as much as you. I just know what I've watched on television.
But you're echoing what we're saying, which is at minimum on the ground floor, it does look like we're a little bit better prepared. We're built a little bit better with a little bit more, intention. It just looks a little different than maybe the last 10 years or so. So I think we're trying to temper it, Coach. We're used to having our hearts broken, but I think we're a little bit excited right about now.
Now you have to have that. That's just part of it. You have to believe. I know. I get accused, of being arrogant, cocky, and all those things. I believed that we were the best. When I went to New Orleans, I didn't want to go to the Saints. I didn't know Sean Payton. I didn't know I liked my job with SNY. I was having a ball. With Ray Lucas, we were having a ball. I loved it. I left in Florida. I traveled up to see my girlfriend in New York. I was having a great time. I get a call, and they talked me into coming down there, and I said, okay. At first, we weren't very good. When I walked in there, they were ranked 31st. When I left, they were first. So that's how I see it. That's what if you don't want to be that, then go do something else. And I really believed that I could get a group of guys. If I had to have some help, but I could get them to that level, and that we could compete at that level and make it and help win the game. Are we going to win it all the time? No. Did we do that? No. No, I know we didn't. We damn sure did it enough. We helped
Right.
teams win. And so that's what I believe in. And there's no reason why the New York Jets shouldn't see themselves beginning to get in that light, that they should be a pretty good football team. And those guys, I mean, they ought to walk in there, I don't know, go walk around New York, but look at the people in the stands. You're not going to really believe that these people have come out, they paid money, they want to see you, they're great fans. No, you got to give it back. If you don't give it back, you should be ashamed.
I agree. Thank you for saying that. We're a good fan base in a good area of the country. We have a lot to offer, don't we, Coach? We're
I
good.
think you absolutely do. I love it. I just loved it.
All right. Yeah. And you said as much in your book. I found that endearing as well. Your son came in and said some of his takes about how much you love New York and going out and hanging out with people and meeting the fans and everything. That was another great. I love this book. Guys, we're talking with Coach Mike Westhoff. We're talking about his brand new book, Figure It Out. I'm about 2/3 through and I am in love with it. I'll finish it in the next, I don't know, day or so. It's a page turner. Yeah, it's a page turner.
Very kind of you.
And you can buy the book. The link is in the description of this video. Go ahead and get yourself a copy. If you're a fan of football, you're going to love it. Thomas Cahill checking in, Coach. He says, is there a player that you were maybe sold on and who later disappointed you? A little bit of the opposite question that we had a little bit earlier for you. Anybody that you thought really high of and maybe ended up disappointing you?
Good question. I'm going to answer it very simply. No, not one. Never. Never, if I was sold on a guy, it ever disappointed me, because it takes a lot for me to get sold.
Right.
It takes a lot.
That sums it up.
I mean, I don't know. When I lived in New York, if I was going out, I was going to buy a top coat. I was getting a cashmere top coat. I was going to get a good one. So my point is, I'm not afraid. I'm going to make the extra effort to get something good, to do something what I could afford. And the same thing as a player. Before I'm going to get all high on him, I'm going to do some research. So if I was on that guy, I never got disappointed, ever. It's just me. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but answer that question, no, that never happened to me.
Well, and that leads me to another interesting story in your book. You talked about Zach Thomas and how you might have fudged the numbers a little bit to make him look a little bit better.
You're going to give away my whole book.
There's so much more.
Nobody will buy it now. They'll just play the recording.
There's so much more. But anybody that you thought the same, like you felt very strongly about Zach Thomas, and in your words, you're not going to let a few numbers take Zach away from you.
You go back to reference. I was a graduate assistant coach at Indiana University with Lee Corso. I was a young guy working my way through the coaching profession. I was going to graduate school. I have my master's degree in educational psychology at Indiana. And I'm working. And Lee came up to me one day, gave me the keys to his brand new car. He said, Mike, I need you. We had an elderly gentleman that was a coach that had been there forever. And he died, a man named Howard Brown. He said, Woody Hayes is coming over to the funeral. Go up to Indianapolis, pick him up, and be his host and his chauffeur for the couple of days that he'll be here for the services. So I was the happiest guy in town. I drove up, and for 2 days, I rode around and took Woody Hayes everywhere. And he was tremendous to me. He was just a bright man. He was a gentleman. He was very, very intelligent. He was a great historian. And we talked a lot. On the way back, as I'm driving him back to the airport, Woody Hayes said to me, he said, Coach, you and I have talked a lot. He said, we talked a little bit about conditioning. He said, and about things that you believe in. Weightlifting. He said, I can see that you work out yourself. And I said, yes, sir, I try. And he said, I want you to remember something. He said, I never saw a weightlifter that was a football player. He said, but I've seen a lot of football players that become better by lifting weights. He said, don't ever let a number, positive or negative, keep you from making your mind up who's a football player. I wasn't going to let a number keep me from getting Zach Thomas. So, and then Zach, and he wrote about it. I'll tell the story. Zach did. He saw my report. He did 22 bench presses. I gave him 24.
Right.
I cheated a little bit. I don't care. When I was there, he was 5'10 and a half. He weighed 223 pounds. I didn't care.
Right.
I knew he was a football player. So that to me was when I did my whole career. I knew you had to have basic, because the NFL, you have to have the basic things. You can't just be anybody. But nonetheless, I wasn't going to let a number keep me from getting Zach. So I fought like the devil for him. And I think we're going to Hall of Fame. And lots of guys like that. I give you lots of those examples. That's what I just believed in. I was going to fight for it. So, yeah, I cheated. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
We won't hold it against you, Coach.
Yeah. You did okay with that Zach Thomas guy. So Dom C., a writer for GreenBeanJetsfan.com, has an interesting question for you, Coach. He says, what are the traits a player has that tells you he could make the final 53 because he's a special teamer, both return guys and gunners? So what are some traits that you look for? Maybe they're not going to make the starting offense or defense, but they're a special teamer, somebody that you want.
Okay, first of all, it's changed dramatically now to back when I did it, because we had so many more plays. Now you don't have as many plays. I received several phone calls this year from NFL head coaches that asked me, a couple of them were really pretty bright, how would I configure a roster today? How many guys would I expect to have? And I was very honest with them. And I told them I don't expect as many. I don't have as many plays. I have a hard time keeping a Larry Izzo on my football team. Where's he going to play? You've got to move them around. So in this day and age, it's a little bit different. So you better make sure you've got a little more fundamental with being some type of a role player before, because it's hard to be just a special teams player. Now, if you have to have that, I'm looking for a base speed. But I want the guy that I want the gym rat. I want the guy that every day is there. He always is working. I want that tough guy. He's gonna, it's like I love to go fishing. And I only fish for sharks. I'm not this greatest fisherman. I don't care. I don't keep anything. I don't kill anything. I let them all go. I like the fight. I just like the fight. I catch them. Trust me, I can catch them. I'm really good. We catch them. They're big. I got a hook the other day. He got away from me. I had a 12-foot bull shark on the other day. He got away. I didn't get him. This is the special teams guy I want. I want the guy who doesn't want to look around, shake your head, run down and knock the hell out of you. That's the guy I'm looking for. The guy that's going to make the play, and he cares. How many plays he gets to play, it's different today because the game has changed. But that's the kind of, I want that guy. The Larry Izzo, when I worked him out, I went on to Rice University. Larry was 5'9" and a half, and he weighed 213 pounds. He was a linebacker.
Right.
Played 13 years. Now he's the special teams coordinator at Seattle. Guys like that. Chris Hayes did nothing. You remember Chris with the Jets. Chris was a great special teams player. That's what he did. That's who he was. He loved it. He would sneak out of the defensive room and come in and watch film with me. I used to have to throw him out. You get out of here, you're going to get me in trouble. That's the kind of guy you want. That guy. Kenyatta Wright that I had at the Jets. Kenyatta Wright would knock your head off. He was so tough and a good man. I just talked to him the other day. His son signed a scholarship at, I believe, University of Arkansas. He lives in Oklahoma. He's going to help me. He helped me with the book because he was interviewed. It was kind of funny. He was pretty tough when he called me. He was a little tough on me. It made me laugh. But I just loved the way he played. I loved the way he played. He would knock you down and tell you. He'd knock you down. And that's the kind of guy that I want. I wanted that really tough football player that did it right. I don't want to. We weren't a penalized team. Not when I was there. I want to do it right. But if I have a question like that again, it's changed today because the game has changed. It's changed. Yeah. You got to change with it. And so players have to be aware of that. There's not as many that can make it. You can't keep a whole group like you used to be able to. You just can't do it today.
Right. Well, Frankie and I were just talking about that a couple weeks ago about we have some guys on the Jets right now that are, they're labeled as defensive backs or what have you, but they really are only there for special teams. And how long can you keep a guy like that around when you have needs at maybe the position? And like you just said, that was a really interesting take. I never thought about it like that. With the minimizing of the actual special teams plays and impact, maybe some of those guys don't have the roster spot like they may have 10 or 15 years ago.
You're going to be able to keep a couple, and that couple better be like an all-star. They better really be good, because you just can't keep as many guys. You can't do it. You don't have the opportunity. You just don't have it. And so you've got to be smart. I always like keeping a couple extra defensive linemen. I take an undersized guy that can go in and help with a pass rush. But I'll find a place for him now. I got some spots for him. I did it with the Saints. I used them all. I love that. I had a great role down there with those guys. And you're going to get a receiver that might help you. You're getting a couple defensive backs. It's just the makeup of the game. It's different. So you got to be smart, and the guys have to fight, and they got to be able to do a lot of things. But to me, if a guy's going really well for me, there should be no reason why he can't go and help and be a contributor in the role that he's at, defensive back, whatever it is. He's no reason he can't. I used to put as much pressure on them in practice. My thing was, I used to talk to them. My famous quote was, help me help you.
Right.
And I can't help you if you can't play on defense. So you better go show me something over there. I was tough on them during practice to make sure that they were doing their share of responsibility, whether it was offense or defense.
Yeah. Well, and this is an interesting question. I don't know how much interaction or knowledge you have of our current special teams coach, but do you have any thoughts about the guy who's here now, Brant Boyer? He's been here. This is now similar to you. This is his third coaching regime that chose to keep him on board. Any thoughts about our current special teams coach?
Well, number one, I drafted him.
Well, there you go.
Enough said.
Yeah, I drafted him. He was a linebacker at the University of Arizona. It was my pick. We went to Miami Dolphins. Now, when Jimmy Johnson, that was Don Shula's last year, and Brett played for me. And then when Jimmy came in, he had his own type guys, and we let him go, and he went up to Jacksonville and had a very good career. So I know him very well. There's some things that he doesn't quite do everything that I did, because it's a little different philosophy he's got, but nonetheless, I still see some good things. I think he's done a pretty nice job. I think he's overall pretty doggone good. And the little bit that I know, I haven't seen everything. And again, keep in mind, you don't have the number of plays. He had a very good kicker a couple years ago. They let get away. That's kind of disappointing. They really haven't rebounded from that yet. So, when you're out there looking at kickers, realize you had one in your pocket and you let him slip away. But I don't know how smart that was.
Right.
But Brett knows, and he's got Leon Washington helping him. So I know they should be in good hands there. They should be in pretty good hands there. From what I know, I have very positive things about him.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. And right, sometimes we forget that our boy Leon is here. This is his second year with us. And man, that can only be a positive, having Leon around for these young guys.
Yeah, he's the greatest.
Yeah.
You sneak him out there and let him run one back. You'll be all right.
Right. Kevin C. checking in, coach. He says he would love to hear your thoughts on our current kicker situation. We have Greg the Leg Zerline and a young man named Eddie Pinheiro. The word coming out of OTAs right now is that they're neck and neck. Any thoughts on these guys? Have you spent any time taking a look?
I don't know. I know Zerline a little bit. I don't know enough about the other guys to honestly give you a good opinion. What I know about Zerline, I always kind of liked. I thought he's got a chance to be the guy. I think he's got a chance to be. He's got a strong leg, but yet, I'm not the guy that stands there and watching him all the time, and that's just not fair for me to answer, because I don't study it like I used to study it. So that's just not. I'm not the right guy to ask on that one.
Okay.
I wish I were, but I'm not.
You know what's interesting about it, Coach? The last two kickers that the Jets had that were really worth anything for any extended period of time it was Jason Myers and Nick Folk, who you brought up, both of whom we got off the Dallas Cowboys scrap heap. Like, they cut them, we grabbed them, and they did great for us. Greg Zerline, he falls right in line. The Dallas Cowboys cut him, so maybe we got at least that going on. We've seemed to do well with the Cowboys cast-off kickers. So
from what I know of him, he's good enough. From what I know, where he is today, I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. And I was just at Miami the other day watching their guys, and of course they've got Thomas Morstead, the punter, who I think is the best punter I ever saw. So I know he can punt. Now this kid that they had down there, I watched him. He looked good. He looked real good. So I saw they're kicking in very good hands the day that I was there. Very good hands. I thought both of them really looked good. So that's like I wish I could tell you more, But
Right.
I do know something about them because I stood right there and watched them. I can tell you about those guys.
So Thomas Cahill, this is an interesting question, Coach, and I'm not sure if you have too much to say on this one, but I'll ask it anyway. He says, what do you think about the anti-Jets crusade around the NFL? We're very sensitive. We feel like a lot of national rags and our beat, they're very negative to us. They kind of emphasize the negative stories. Have you seen any of that? Do you think that's accurate, or are we just sore?
I think you're just sore. but maybe rightfully so. I don't know of an anti-Jet crusade. I don't see it. I don't. And sometimes you have to remember. I mean, these guys are being a little bit reactionary also. And for a decade now, you haven't thrown a very good pitch out there. You just have not. You've lost games, and sometimes you look very poor doing so. So I think in that regard, if the media guys are smart, they present a good case, and I think that's really worth listening to them. Sometimes, I used to remember standing up in front, and I would look out at that group and think to myself, so many guys I respected, and I'd look at others, and I knew they never got picked in gym class. They were mad. They're still mad because that happened to them way back when. So it's a pain in the neck. But I just think it's sometimes you have to take a look at the source. I don't know if there's an anti-Jet, but remember, you've given them some pretty good ammunition now in these last 10 years. You really have. So you're the ones that got to step up and straighten this mess out.
Yeah,
I think you can. Right. I believe you can. I think you will.
Yeah, it's. I think we could plug the sieve with just a little bit of winning, huh? We could probably
no
fix
doubt about it. No one cares what you did before. They care what you're doing now. That's what everybody wants to see. But come on, you turn the thing around. You're exciting. You get going, and then you can build it. Come on. The Patriots aren't the same football team. Yeah, they still have Bill Belichick. They're not the same. They're okay, but they're not the same. Miami's got some issues. How good are they? A lot of times they got a brand new coach and a quarterback. Buffalo's pretty good. But come on, the Jets are in a position to be competitive. And there's no question in my mind that they should do that.
Yeah, well, that's our hope. We feel the same way, Coach. Garrett Ham has an interesting question. He says, do you find that you get more love from the Jets fans or the Dolphin fans? Who sends you more positive vibes, Coach?
Answer this right. Question. There's one right answer.
No, I'll be honest with you. It's from the Jets. I get more positive things from the Jets. I really do. Now, don't forget, I was at Miami so long ago. Now, when you throw me in with Don Shula and Dan Marino, then that's pretty good company. And so, which I was there for that whole time with those guys. So that's pretty positive. But a lot of Miami, that was a long time ago. And it's actually the Jets fans I've been closer with than Miami.
There you go. Well, that makes us feel good, right, Y2K?
No, let's be honest.
That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to hear anyway. But I'm glad that it's true. Because look, the truth is that we loved you. We were very, we were nervous when you left. We didn't want to have to replace such a great coach.
It was the greatest. Yeah. I loved it. So many good things happened to me in New York. I had some very difficult health times that I had to go through. I talked about them in the book. And fortunately for me, come on, I'm in New York and have a chance to be at Sloan Kettering. What they did for me. If you could see an X-ray of my leg, of what I have, you wouldn't even believe that it exists.
Right.
The metal in my leg is thicker than your microphone.
Really? Wow.
Guys, Sloan Kettering, John Healy invented what I have. I mean,
Incredible.
so I'm perfectly normal. I do everything. I'm the luckiest guy around. And a lot of it had to do with being in New York and being at that great situation that changed my life and gave me some things that I will always be grateful for.
Yeah, amazing. Well, and that's good, right? Like you said, right place, right time, right?
There's no question there. What they did for me, it's just a miracle in my life, and it meant the world to me, and it kept me going all these years, and so I'm the most grateful person, believe me.
Yeah, and I won't give too much away, but guys, that is also in the book. He goes into some great detail. in Figure It Out. We're here with Coach Mike Westhoff, our special teams coach, for 3 different coaching regimes. Eric Mangini, I believe, Herm Edwards, and Rex Ryan. So Herm, Mangini, and Rex, he was here for all of that, and now he's with us, and we're grateful to have you. The link to purchase his book is in the description of this video. I highly recommend it. I'm reading it right now myself. Now, Mark Riz checks in, Coach, and he says he's jumping in late. So I think he missed a little bit about, when you were talking about Leon. But if you had to take one, who is it out of Leon, and what's the difference? Like, what is it that Leon has that maybe Chad Morton and Brad Smith don't have that get you so positive to want to take him first?
That's a good question. Leon was more explosive. Leon could probably make a little bit more out of nothing than the other 2 guys. The other guys were both very good, but they actually benefited from really good blocking, et cetera, whereas Leon sometimes could make a move that no one else could make. And Leon was very, very smart. Remember, he made the really heads-up play. We were playing up at Buffalo, and they tried kind of a coffin kick to the sideline, and Leon ran over. He smartly stepped out of bounds, and then he touched the ball, and that's a penalty. That means the ball's, you don't have to field it, you just have to touch it. He knew the rule. Now we get the ball at the 40-yard line. We drove down the field, won the game. Leon was a smart football player that not only, you teach these things to, and you hope they know them. Sometimes they go out there and they freeze and forget them. Not Leon. Leon took it with him. So as much as I love the other guys, and I have to pick one, I would pick Leon.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a big difference when the guys can do that, what we call heads up plays, knowing the scenario, knowing the, having the awareness of the situation, situational football, that can make all the difference on a play like that. So it's funny, in the book, I didn't know that you were actually a part of the USFL as well. Now the USFL is back. What do you think quickly? The original USFL, right? So all the same teams and everything. Any chance that this league sticks around, Coach?
I'm not in this day and age, I'm not convinced. No. Back then, you had some guys like Donald Trump that threw a lot of money. They threw a lot of money out there, and they were really competing. Remember all the good players that the USFL took. You're talking, Steve Young, Reggie White. This was a lot of good football players that they grabbed. And then, so I was there during their 3rd year. I was at the Arizona Outlaws. Doug Williams was our quarterback, and we had a good group. It was fun. I enjoyed it. But the league, that's when they had the lawsuit. They won the lawsuit, but what they win? $2 or some stupid thing. And they weren't going to compete with the NFL, and they did. They just didn't have the financial wherewithal to get that done. And that's really a problem today, because sometimes, as much as I like to see it, I don't see great quality football. It's okay. That's what I've seen from what I've watched so far. It's not bad, but I don't think it's great. So I think it's. I don't know. I'm not sure there's enough real good football players to go around at the level that the NFL competes at. That's the high level. I mean, these are the grown men playing that game. This is not college football.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm rooting for it, but I think you make some great points. I don't see it having much staying power.
I'm not against it.
Right. More football, the better, I would think. But yeah. So let me ask. This is a personal question. I really wanted to get your take on this. I'm kind of on my own crusade these days, Coach, trying to get the newer fans to recognize a specific player named Mo Lewis. Now, you talked a little bit about it in your book, about the play. You actually were the coach of the Jets during that when Mo Lewis knocked out Drew Bledsoe. His whole career has been kind of whittled down to that one play, sadly. And he was a 13-year vet of the Jets and one of my favorite players. Any opinion on Mo Lewis? Anything you could tell us about his leadership, how he played, or what were your thoughts about having a guy like Mo Lewis?
I'll jump up to New England real quick. They should erect a statue in front of their stadium on Mo Lewis. Because if he doesn't make that play, they're not going to put Brady in the game over Bledsoe. It would have never happened. They weren't going to do it. Absolutely, I can guarantee. I'm telling you the truth there. Mo played an extremely high level his entire career. Mo Lewis was a great leader and a grown man. Now he did things really well. When Mo Lewis walked in the room, I'm telling you, everybody paid attention. He was the boss. He was a tough guy. We had him and Marvin Jones. You talk about two linebackers that really were good football players.
Right.
I remember Marvin came into my meeting one time. I won't give you all the details, but I'll give you a part of it. He came in, he said to me, he said, Mike, would it be okay if I talk to these guys for just about 2 minutes? He said, I got something to say. I said, okay, go ahead. I sat down. He said, listen, I'm going to tell you guys something. He said, I know this is over in Hofstra. He said, I know it's not the nicest place here. He said, I know it gets kind of old and beat up. He said, Coach Edwards is trying to fix some things up there. Trying. He said, I went in downstairs this morning to use the toilet. He said, there was stuff everywhere, all over the floor. He said, now tomorrow, when I walk in there and I see one of you drop something on the floor, he said, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. He says, I'm just going to, excuse my language. He said, I'm just going to tell you right now, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat the hell out of you. He said, so nobody better do it around me. This is our home. Don't disgrace it. He sat down. I don't imagine everybody picked up their trash after that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's a great story and you go into a little bit of that too, guys. He goes really in detail about the campus at Hofstra and how they overcame a lot of difficulties. He goes through earlier in the Indianapolis Colts when he was Baltimore Colts when he was, Coach Mike Westhoff was actually not only coaching the offensive line and the special teams, he was also tasked with painting the walls and planting flowers and all kinds of stuff. This guy, coach, he's done it all.
The truth. Did it all. I did it all. I was a strength coach. If you read some of that, you got some good stories. Look at that. That was an interesting. Well, I was part of that midnight move when we moved from Baltimore to Indianapolis. I was there.
Really?
Oh, I was absolutely.
It's true.
I was part of all of it. And so it's a different way we got into coaching than now. A lot of times it's just being in front of a computer or being an analytic. For me, it was mopping the weight room, doing things like that. I had a whole different approach, and it's what I know, and it's how I grew up in the business, and that's why I learned it. So I think it came along at the right time. So,
well, speaking of that, if you wouldn't mind, just a moment, how did the staff feel about that midnight move? Was there any trepidation, or was everybody excited to do it? It's an ominous moment in NFL history. They just woke up the next day and they didn't have a football team. So what was that like on that?
There was really only one guy on the staff that didn't want to go. He was he wanted to get out of it, which he did get out. Went into college. He left anyway. Most of us knew it had to happen. Baltimore as a city had come on hard times. The textile industry had bailed out. The biggest steel mill, Sparrows Point, had closed. The stadium was old, falling apart. The Ursays went from probably being having the least non-shared revenue, where not just television money, because that's all shared equally, and then they went to having the most. So, we all knew that we were going somewhere. It was going to happen. The rumor was at first we were going to go to Phoenix, then Jacksonville, then Memphis, and then Indianapolis built the drug manufacturer built the Dome. They built the Hoosier Dome. Well, they had the beautiful place to play. And then they made us a deal that you really couldn't pass up. So the problem was, the reason they had to go at night was that the city of Baltimore owned the building that we were practicing in. We leased it from the city. So therefore, we had to get everything out before they could close the door.
Wow.
So everybody went home. Everybody went home, and they came around to the handful of us that got invited. And believe me, it wasn't everybody. And they said, the trucks will be here tonight as soon as it gets dark. He said, there's boxes will be put in your office. Pack everything. Take everything in the building but the phones. So everything, they brought in manpower workers. They jammed. I was a strength coach. I packed all my weight room. All the weights were rusty because it was raining. They were ruined. The whole thing. They packed everything. They went up to a truck stop on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. They all the trucks went together. The Indiana State Police came and escorted them to Indianapolis. And then people came back the next day to find that their office was totally gone. All their personal things, their pictures, gone. So there were lots of anger and lots of tears. It was a very difficult time. But for us, we knew it had to happen, and it wasn't like you're jumping up and down with joy. But Indianapolis treated us great, and it ended up being a great move for that franchise.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I didn't expect to hear that story tonight, Coach. That's fantastic. I mean,
I told you nobody's going to buy the book. You're killing me.
That's good.
We will still buy it. There's a lot of people in the chat saying they want to buy it. So you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, they'll have fun reading it. It's a great story, and I'm fortunate to have lived it.
So let's do one more question for you, and then we'll do a piece of trivia, and we'll see how we do with that. Y2K, if you wouldn't mind getting the naked people out of the chat there. So Jets Carpetbagger checked in, and he, you told a little bit about the 2001 season after 9/11, but he's asking, was there any other aspects of the season that that you can talk about that made that a special season that weren't, the season obviously was tainted with what happened on 9/11. You talked about the Raiders game. Any other moments about that season that made it such a powerful season for you?
Well, remember the first game after 9/11 was up in New England, and we went up there and beat them. Now that's when Bledsoe got, when Bledsoe got hurt and they brought in Brady, but we won the football game. We just knew that all of a sudden, we're not bad. We kind of were trying to put it together. We're a new staff. We didn't have it all gelled yet, and but you could see that each week we got better and better and better, and we were actually playing pretty good football. So we believed that we were going to be a factor in the playoffs, and then we had to win at the end down there in Oakland to get in. We lost the next time when we went out, which was a shame because we were ahead at half. And then of course, Oakland went on, and then they had the crazy tuck rule game up in New England against the snow. We believed at that point in time we were a very good match for New England because we had such a good running game. Brady was just getting going, and we could run the football with Curtis Martin. So that we felt pretty good about that team. And frankly, to tell you the truth, I believe if we were playing in a snow game with the type of offense that we had and the way our defense was at that time, we'd have won that game. I believe we'd have won it. But that fit what we did pretty well. Do I know that? Can I prove that? Of course not.
Right.
No, they won. They went to the Super Bowl. But we were competitive. And that season, we began to grow. And so that's what I remember most of it.
Right. Well, that was, and I just want you to know, I completely agree. I think we would have won as well. So I corroborate your thoughts there. So thank you, Jets Carpetbagger. That was a good one. Now, Coach, I want to just tell you there are plenty of people in here saying that they already purchased the book through the link. One more time, I'm going to remind everybody the book is Figure It Out. Just an amazing collection of fascinating stories of Coach's career. A lot of it having to do with the Jets, a lot of it having to do with other places that he's been and traveled. It's fascinating. If you get it, you're going to love it. Now brings us to our favorite time of the night, Coach. Before we let you go, if you could hang out and do the trivia with us, Y2K is going to take us through a little bit of Mike Westhoff trivia. So what do you got, Y2K?
This will be interesting.
To say the least. Okay. So, by the way, before I do that, I asked the trivia question. I do have one question about the book. Will there be autographed copies or an audio version of the book available?
There is an audio version. Yes, I did it. I spent 3 weeks in a recording studio, and I lived it, so I recorded it. I'm very proud of it. Now, that will not come out until July 9th. That's our July 9th or 12th. That's when that comes out. And then the same thing with the iCopy. You can get it anywhere. I think it's July 9th or 12th. I can't think right off the top of my head. One of those dates. It'll be released everywhere. Right now, you have to get it through the publisher, through Mascot Books, and then just go in and put the title in. They'll deliver it to your house. You can get it today, but that's through the publisher. But then it'll be everywhere July 12th. It'll be everywhere, and it'll be available through the iBook. A lot of people like to read on their iPad or listen to an audio, and yes, they'll all be available then. You get it at Barnes & Noble, anywhere.
Right. And just to say this, when I ordered the book through what he's talking about, the publisher, I got it in 48 hours, 2 days.
Yeah, they had to do a couple printings, actually, so I'm pretty proud of that. And
that's good.
I told him, I said, I'm going to break the record. So whatever you have, I'm going to break it.
The competitive
Come on,
spirit.
You got to try. You have to, come on. And I worked all these years. I love the way we did it. I like the fact it's not just me telling the story. You're going to hear Leon Washington describe everything. And I think that really makes a difference. And to me, that's something I'm very, very proud of. And I let them know I wasn't going to scrutinize anything they said. In fact, I didn't see a lot of times what they said until it was in a form of print. I didn't see it. So whatever they said, so trust me, it's a little salty. It's a little salty. Whew, you fit right in with you guys.
That's trust.
I think I just got sold on the audio version. I got to be honest. Okay.
Yeah.
I recorded it. I did it.
All right. Ready to go?
All right,
Are we ready for some trivia, guys?
Yep. There you go, buddy.
Okay, Coach. Here's the question. This is for the chat. GreenBean, Frankie. Here we go. During the 2010 Jets season, Coach, you had 7 different players who returned at least one punt during the course of that season. Challenge. Name those 7 players.
Okay, so in the chat, without looking it up at Google, these are our rules. You can't use Google. Anybody want to take a shot on how? Let me rephrase this. On the players, the 7 players that returned a punt for Coach Westhoff in the 2010 season. Without giving the answer, Coach, do you remember all 7 guys that returned?
No, I do not. I absolutely do not. I can picture. I know I can't do it. I know. I just know I can't do it. I cannot.
Frankie, do you feel better now?
Yeah, I'm Coach. I'm the worst at these trivia questions. So Y2K is always making.
Boy, maybe you and I are going to rank to see who's the worst. Antonio Holmes is one, a name that nobody would expect. He's one of them. He's going to be one that nobody would get. The other guys, but I can't do it. I'm sorry, I just can't.
All right, so we got Brad Smith. Brad Smith is one.
Nope. Brad Smith is not one.
No.
Brad Smith only returned kicks. He did not return a punt.
Wow.
No.
Interesting.
Leon.
So we got Leon. Okay, Garrett's got Leon.
Nope.
What about?
No, Leon was gone then.
Nope.
Cromartie did.
Cromartie
did.
Yeah.
Cromartie did. Leon didn't.
Leon
was
did
gone
not.
because he left
Leon
after
was gone.
2009. That's right. That's
I know.
Right.
Coach, I'm tough on them because we got such a smart fan base. I got to make them hard,
Was Jericho one? Jericho Cotchery?
Jericho was 3rd on the team. He had 8. Cromartie had 5, and Santonio had 4.
Right.
Antonio Holmes had 4. How about Revis? I don't think so, right?
No.
We wouldn't have risked it with him.
No. Rex has been under fire for that one.
Did we give Braylon Edwards a shot?
No. He couldn't catch him anyway. No, he wasn't. Don't get me wrong. I love him as a receiver. I love him as a receiver, but he wasn't a punt returner. That wasn't his thing.
Right, I got you.
Coach, I'll admit, you mentioned one of the names.
Leonard.
Jimmy Leonard could do it. I'm gonna say yes.
Number 1, 21. He had the most before he got hurt.
Yeah,
Wow.
Jimmy Leonard. Very underrated Jet, Jimmy Leonard. Everybody
Excellent.
forgets about Jimmy Leonard.
Good defensive coach. Good defensive coach up at the University of Wisconsin.
That's right.
Okay.
A lot of us were hoping that we would have grabbed him for our defensive coordinator this time around, Coach. We were all kind of
he's a good coach, good football coach.
All right.
Yeah.
We got 4. We got 3 more to get. Numbers 2, 6, and 7.
All right. Brandon
Joe McKnight's one of them.
You got he only had 2, but he was one of them. Yes.
Yeah, he was one for sure.
We got 2 more.
Okay.
One of these guys had 15 returns, and I'll be honest, one of them only had 1 punt return, and it was for -5 yards.
Oof. So that's why you only did it once, I imagine.
I'm imagining so.
So
we already talked about Cromartie did it. I know he did it. Jimmy Leonard did it. Gotcha.
Yep.
Did it.
Eric
Smith, I was thinking about.
Nope.
No, Eric didn't do it. Eric didn't do it.
Danny Woodhead was gone already. We cut him.
No, not Wood.
Danny didn't do it either. No.
Okay. Well, it wasn't LT, right? LaDainian Tomlinson?
No, he wasn't there.
Right.
No, he wouldn't do it. He didn't do it.
Guys, I got to call it. Y2K has clearly stumped us yet again.
You got me too. I do not know these other two.
My goodness.
Now we don't feel so bad. We even stumped the coach. So Y2K, give us the whole list and tell us who the final guy was.
Okay, so there were 2 guys we didn't get. So the most was Jim Leonard with 21.
Right. I'm with you there.
With 15, nobody guessed this guy. One of the biggest busts, I'm sorry, in the history of this organization, Kyle Wilson, had 15.
Oh, Kyle Wilson.
I know,
Wow.
15.
There was a
punt
time
returns.
Kyle was a guy that really at times looked just brilliant and really did a nice job, but then it just never seemed matriculated, never seemed to move where it was. So Kyle, I'm not surprised it's Kyle, but he never did what I thought he could do. I really believed he could be the guy, and he ended up not being the guy. That was disappointing because at times he looked brilliant, but it never quite happened that way. So that's probably a little bit of a shame.
Yeah. Wow. Kyle Wilson. Okay. Who else we got? Watch okay.
So number 3 was Jericho Cotchery. He had 8.
Right.
4 was Cromartie. He had 5. Santonio was 5th with 4.
Right.
Number 6 was Joe McKnight with 2. And
Okay.
number 7, the one with 1 return for -5 yards, was number 34, Marquise Cole.
Marquise.
Must have
Cole.
been
You remember
desperate.
that? Yeah. I must have
Remember the
been
play
desperate.
now?
I must have been desperate. Somebody had a gun to my head.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
Man,
that's
I love Marquise. I love him as a football player. Don't get me wrong. But that's not. We had to be in bad shape there.
Yeah.
Whew.
Oh, right. And it didn't work. So that's good time. Hey, listen, Coach, Y2K
That's a tough
stumps
one.
us.
That's a
He
tough one.
stumps us.
You got me. I'm not that good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, he gets us every week, Coach.
You got me. You smashed me too.
Well, that was a good job. So this is we have come to the end of our show. I want to just thank Coach Mike Westhoff for spending a solid 2 hours with us tonight. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for being here, Coach. We appreciate it.
It was fun for me. Thank you. I appreciate everything. You guys are the greatest, and you had really good questions. You guys did a very good job. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you guys. Again, the book is called Figure It Out with Coach Mike Westhoff. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I put a link in the description of this video. Click on the link, buy the book. It'll be at your house in a couple days, and you can enjoy it as well. Again, Coach, thank you so much. I want to thank you, all of you in the chat, for being here. This was a good one. You guys were respectful and had great questions as well. So thank you guys for being here. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right on there. And thank you to everybody. Have a great night. We will see you next time.
Okay.
Yeah, here we come, baby. Here we come. Here come the Jets, man. I want to kiss you.
Thanks, Joe.
You want to run or you want to duck down? You want to duck, just go over and get onto the bench and stay there.
You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets, Jets.